Hello and welcome to Classic Book Reviews with David. In this video I'll be discussing The Monkey's Paw, which is one of my favourite short stories of all time, certainly in my top 10, probably in my top 5, and possibly my favourite short story ever. But I won't sing its praises too much now, I'll do that later. So I'll give you a bit of background first. It was written in 1902 by W. Jacobs, and, well, I should say published in 1902. And the story is about a Mr. and Mrs. White who are relatively old, and their grown-up son, Herbert. And they're at home, and they receive a visitor. It's a retired sergeant major who's just come back from India. And he has in his possession a shriveled-up old monkey's paw, which piques the family's curiosity, and they start probing him about it. And this is what he says. "It had a spell put on it by an old fakir," said the sergeant major. "A very holy man. He wanted to show that fate ruled people's lives, and that those who interfered with it did so to their sorrow. He put a spell on it so that 3 separate men could each have 3 wishes from it." And then further down the page, they discover that the sergeant major has had his 3 wishes, and he seems very miserable. He doesn't reveal what those wishes were. And then the family say, "Has anybody else had a wish?" And this is the sergeant major's response. "The first man had his 3 wishes, yes," was the reply. "I don't know what the first 2 were, but the third was for death." And that sets the scene. The sergeant major parts with the monkey's paw for a trifle, a small sum of money. And the family don't really believe that this monkey's paw is particularly magical or anything like that. And they make a wish. And that is the beginning of the ghost story and the catastrophe. I say ghost story, it's a supernatural tale, I should say. And I suppose it's a case of be careful what you wish for. I think that's the central theme of the story. But it is just brilliant. It's probably the most brilliantly plotted story, short story at least, that I've ever read. Everything just slots together so well, and the conclusion is just perfect. Again, I can't give away too much because I don't want to give away the entire story. There's also an interesting element, which was commented upon by M.R. James, who's one of my favourite ghost story authors. And he pointed out that this story, The Monkey's Paw, has an element of, well, it could be the case that it's not supernatural, all these events. It could be just coincidence and things like that. But it's just, you could argue that it's not supernatural, but story's plotted in such a way it probably is, but there's that ambiguity there, which again makes the reading even more intriguing. It's a great story. As I say, it's perfect in many ways, especially the plot. It's very easy to understand, it doesn't tax your brain too much, and this linking of fate, be careful what you wish for, it just comes out so well. They make one wish, and they obviously regret strongly making that wish, and then they make another, and then they have to make the final wish, and it's just so good. It's a relatively short story. I've got it in at least 2 books. This book, which is a dusty old book, which has an introduction by M.R. James, and that's where I got his quote on The Monkey's Paw. And I've got this book as well. I got this book when I was about 12. I think it was my 12th birthday. And it's got some great stories, and The Monkey's Paw is, I guess, the best. Sorry, you can't read it because of the glare. There you go. I'll put some links down below. I'll try and find it on the internet somewhere so you can purchase it if you want to. Please do subscribe, and that's it. Until the next video. See you again soon, hopefully. Bye.